Hello and welcome back to Down the Slope, guys. It's finally been a week, and it's been quite a fun one. But we've got a full house for you today. We're joined by Ryan, Ewan, Greg, and Liam. Ryan, how you doing, mate?
I'm all right, mate. Thanks. I'm still feeling the effects, but we're getting there.
Nice. And Ewan, unfortunately, you didn't make the trip down to Birmingham. But how are you getting on, mate?
I'm very well, mate. I'm very well. Yeah, the sun's shining. Hibs won. Full of the joys of life, huh?
And Greg, what about yourself?
All good, mate. I'm all good.
Nice. And Liam, you clearly didn't get the memo that we're all wearing black today. How are you getting on in your white top?
Me and my white top are just fine. We are prepared for the conditions of the day, but we're a hunky dory in this household. Thank you.
Nice, superb. And then Ewan, I'm afraid to say that we're going to be boasting for quite a bit for the next few minutes about the fantastic trip we went on last week. So Ryan, kick it off. You and the boys travelled by train down to Birmingham. That was probably the low light of your trip, to be honest.
Aye, because I got roasted on the train for 4 hours straight. Even when I went to the toilet, they still decided to stitch me up at cards. I mean, Jesus Christ, it was a horrid 4 hours, I'll be honest with you. I should have made the executive decision and drove down by myself. That way I wouldn't have got picked on.
But it only went uphill from there.
I don't know. The victimisation continued for the next couple of days, I'll be honest. And I can see Liam smiling because he knows it's true.
But Liam, aside from picking on Ryan during the trip, just how good a trip? Where would you put that in your favourite Hibs trips you've been on?
It was very good. It wasn't quite going to the continent, but it was. Let's be honest, for me, it was a bit of a fucking dump. But it was good. It was really good. I did enjoy a couple of days down there. Good company. Some very average pints. Some very questionable bar service in a few of the places we were in as well. But a very enjoyable trip nonetheless. And to be honest, it was just the top it all off. That weekend on Thursday night was something special. It really was something special.
And Greg, if someone said to you, you can either go back in time, you can either go back to the old Sly Fox and have that jukebox playing Pretty Woman, or you can go into Hibs End singing Sunshine on Leaf. What one are you going for?
It's a tough one, to be honest. Both just very good. But I think that the away end just narrowly wins it. And yes, I think that Sly Old Fox Dukey was taking an absolute pounding, mainly off Harry's money, to be honest. Sending him up every 2 minutes to go and put it back on again, Harry. But yeah, it was a really top trip with top people. And me and Lee sharing a double bed with one pillow each that was paper thin was an experience. Never known someone so small to fidget so much.
Just for context, me and Greg were in the same hotel, but we were rooms next to each other. And then went in because Greg met me to give me my key over, and then I went through to bed. I was thankfully I had the bed to myself that night, but it was maybe like 11:30, and then there was silence for about 10 minutes, and then all I can hear is and Greg and Lee were pissing themselves laughing. It was like two kids on a sleepover.
I would love to tell you what we're talking about. It may actually been the boy that was doing impersonations at the bar that were really, really bad. But yeah, to be fair, he is a pretty decent movie.
Nice. He's some boy is Lee. But Ewan obviously didn't make it down to the game, but the renditions of Sunshine on Leaf, that's kind of what separates this club from others, isn't it? Like, that song's just so special. Nobody's really got anything like it, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I think so. I think as a fan base, we've maybe taken a bit of a beating in the past, like I remember like when we got beat by Celtic in Scottish Cup finals, but the atmosphere was still good and people are like, at least you won the singing and all that. But ultimately, and even in between the two games, you've seen people on Twitter and that going, are Hibs fans still going to go? Are you going to do this? Like, I think from what I've seen sort of obviously online and sort of reliving it through you guys over the last, I don't know how many days it's been, 4 or 5 days, but the fans are a credit to the club. They generally always are. And obviously it's the stereotypical thing that you just want to see the fan base have more opportunity to, for days like that. That's sort of where I'm at with it. But no, it was after the game, I have to be honest. After the game, and actually on the Friday, I think was the first time. That's when the sort of the envy, the old jealousy kicked in of you lot. It had been totally fine, and sort of even I think because I was working and stuff, everything sort of my head was elsewhere. But after the game, seeing all the videos, seeing all of yous pop up in various videos as well, I was jealous, but no, you still like had a great time.
No, it certainly was. And Grant Fraser in the YouTube comment section said it was an unreal trip. So Grant, we're glad you had a good time as well, our friend.
There was actually one boy in the Soba that wanted us to kick the podcast off with a song. And I vaguely remember this, and I think it was Liam that reminded me the day after. And I think since Harry's such a good singer and has previous for singing songs,
I'm going to have to change one of the words, because if I sing one of the words, it could potentially come back and bite me. So I do apologise. But
Neil Lennon version.
Yeah.
Flies an aeroplane, Neil Lennon. Drives Rangers insane, Neil Lennon. I don't believe it to be true. No one can hate Rangers like you. All right, there we go. That's me got my cringe out for the year.
Obviously we're going to come on to the managerial stuff, but if Lennon does become the manager, maybe that should be the forfeit song for whoever loses on fantasy football, as discussed. Just like a 5-minute constant loop of that at the end of an episode at the end of the season.
We had a 5-hour loop of that in the Sly Old Fox.
Genuinely,
I don't know how much Harry put into that Dookie, but it was a lot, to be honest. And that's probably paid the electricity bill for the full year in the Sly Old Fox. So well done, Harry.
I think it was about £9 I put in the one jukebox. Absolutely mental scenes. But yeah, no, Aston Villa, obviously performance-wise, we lost 3-0. But on the pitch, a lot of the fans were saying that they think they saw a lot of positive improvements from games that came before, and I wouldn't disagree with that, to be honest. But it definitely paid dividends when we went up to Pittodrie at the weekend, and we came away with a 2-0 victory away to Aberdeen. First 3 points of the season. Ewan, where did that performance come from?
Fuck knows. No, we were really good for probably 85 minutes yesterday. I think we started slow and we probably could count ourselves lucky, actually not to concede a goal really early on. But after that, I thought we settled into the game and we're comfortably the better side. I think Ryan sort of shared the stats with us this morning as well, and they just sort of backed up that eye test if you want to go down that way. It was a really good yesterday. Boyle and Newham were probably the most threatening that they've been all season, definitely in the league. Maybe not Luzerne actually, but albeit neither of them scored, especially in the first half. They were sort of slicing through Aberdeen's backline at will. Truthfully, I thought Aberdeen played into our hands a little bit. They had an exceptionally high line, and they were over-committing at times. They were leaving us 2-on-2 from most corners and set pieces. But yeah, no, that doesn't take away from every single player on the park. I thought I had a really good game yesterday, actually.
And Liam, what changes, if any, because team lineup wise in the group chat, none of us were overly optimistic we could get a good result. But what changes did you see that we might have not seen if Johnson was still in charge at the weekend?
I think first and foremost focusing on winning our individual battles and maybe just really in a slightly simpler message to the players in terms of getting, hate to use the phrase, kind of getting back to basics, but focusing on being a slightly more solid defensive unit. I think we saw maybe a greater emphasis on defending. I was impressed with how when Aberdeen got into wide areas, we squeezed them a little bit more as well, to try and stop the crosses. I just think overall it was a performance where, to use the word solid, probably doing us a bit of a disservice, because I think that suggests that we didn't offer anything going forward, and we absolutely did. But I think the emphasis was very much on defend first, and then look to try and win the game. Because on too many occasions when we've gone up to Tawdry in the past, perhaps we've been the better side, but come away with it nothing because we maybe not a little bit more cavalier. I don't think we saw that yesterday. So I think that would be the kind of key things I took from it.
Nice. And Greg, you tend to have the biggest focus on defending and doing the basics, especially at the back. The team looked pretty well drilled yesterday.
Yeah, I think I know there's quite a lot of stuff that comes out when you're losing goals for crosses and you've got a right back and a left back on the staff, but I think we looked a lot better defensively. Whatever David Gray's changed seems to have worked, and I think that Lewis Miller in particular was solid. Didn't really give Duke much to go at, and he obviously resorted to throwing himself to the floor. So yeah, I just think we defended and worked hard for each other, which is something that we've probably not seen in the league this season. Just a proper aggressive defensive performance, which, listen, everyone wants to see that. You want to keep clean sheets and scoring goals, and we done that yesterday. So full praise to him for whatever he's changed and tweaked.
Aye, and David Gravy is the phrase that Greg has coined. Ryan, we put it as a episode title. Is he in for a shout now to get the job permanently in your eyes?
I'm not 100% sure David Gray particularly wants the job at the minute. I think the way that he's spoken in his press conferences kind of suggests that he doesn't maybe feel ready at this point in time. Whether I'm picking up the wrong message, I don't know. I think when he said that the club comes first at all times, kind of suggests that he feels the more experienced man should be in charge, which you could argue the point that he's got a bit of a reaction out of these players the last two games, more so than what Lee Johnson had his whole time at the club. So, like I say, I might be picking up wrong, but I'm not sure if he wants that role yet.
Right, and talk to us about the performance. It was just great all round, wasn't it?
Absolutely. It shows you the importance of a good game plan. I think you could say the way that we played, the way that we kind of counter-attacked Aberdeen, and then the way that the subs affected the game were all down to kind of great game management. Everything worked out the way it should have. The guys have already mentioned the good things that happened within the game, but I mean, the subs were hit at absolutely the perfect moment. They both came on and made a big impact. Basically won us the game in the end, involved in both goals, the two subs, which was great. I think Doidge started off the season really well. I think obviously we didn't see that last season, and then obviously went out on loan, but he's looking very sharp this season, and he's had a big impact in the games that he's played.
Absolutely. And then looking at some of the individual performances, one player that has come under blast on the podcast quite a few times, Jack Kell said, after yesterday's performance, I am now willing to lay off Jeggo for a couple of weeks. What were your thoughts on his performance, particularly as fellow Jeggo critiques? Personally, I think that Jeggo's best two performances came in the last two games, and I don't think that's coincidental. I think that Jeggo is, as we've said, in terms of being on the ball, relatively limited, but I think that he does have a use in terms of actually being a nuisance for opposition teams and actually breaking up their attacks. I think that he put himself in very good positions yesterday defensively. And the thing I loved about his performance yesterday is every single time he got the ball and there was no options in front of him, he turned around and he gave it back to Will Fisher, Paul Hanlon. For me, I've said the whole time, if you're not good at something, don't do it. And for me, he's not got a strong range of passing. So giving the ball away and recycle, I don't like the phrase recycling, but I felt that's what he done a lot yesterday. And I think that's one of the key reasons that we won. I think that even though we were playing quite a lot of long balls into the channels, I think that was the right way to attack Aberdeen, as we could see with the success that Ewan and Boyle were getting. But guys, we've all been pretty critical of Jeggo. Is he winning any brownie points for you guys? Or are we still kind of on that side of the fence of not wanting him in the team?
I mean, like I said earlier, he was one of 11 players that started yesterday that was really good. I'd be wrong to suggest that. I think that anyone that started yesterday didn't have a good game. Some more so than others. I can't say that Jeggo stood out, but maybe that's just not what I look for in the game potentially. But definitely had a good, effective game in there.
I remain of the same opinion. Like, I thought when we signed him January last season, I felt he was an adequate stopgap. I remain really disappointed that we've not signed a number 6 to play that role longer term. I think you've all heard me bang that drum enough times, so I won't go into that again. I think he'll be fine if used sparingly, but if we're planning to play him 38 league games this season, then I don't think we'll finish in third place in the league.
Ryan G, anything to chime in on Jeggo?
I agree with Liam. He's okay, but he's not what we need.
Ryan?
Happy for him to play well yesterday. Happy to see that.
Look, I think just Harry, he's not going to start in your strongest 11. Like, that is probably still the truth of it. You know that, and it's one good game. He was poor against Livingston. You know, if he goes and puts 3-4 performances together, then that changes probably all our opinion. You know what I mean?
If we play a 4-4-2, he doesn't play. So simple as that.
Okay.
We'll come on to that later this episode. But some of the YouTube comments, thanks so much, guys, for commenting live. Lewis Young said, someone needs to tell Duke to stay on his feet. That dive yesterday. That was is that the first time we've seen a referee go to the screen and not give a decision at a Hibs game?
He didn't go to the screen.
Did he not? I thought he did.
No.
Never gave a penalty.
You've just made that up.
You have made that up.
I thought he went over.
I think I put the specs you're needing, by the way.
I swear, did he not?
No, Harry. No.
VAR confirmed his initial decision. He didn't give
right. Oh, I thought he went over to check it.
No.
That shows how much I know, eh? Anyway, Duke, bad reputation. Harry making things up, bad. Duke diving, bad. Yeah.
Yeah.
Def has a reputation though, and like every time he gets the box, you expect him to fall to the floor. I thought Lewis Miller dealt with him superbly well yesterday.
Can I just say a funny that's coming out? How funny is the Aberdeen fan wanting the Hibs admin to get a ban? Tweeting that TikTok earlier. Can an admin get a ban? D-game ban for the admin. He's not allowed to tweet for the Hibs account for 3 days.
Admin's got to win strings.
Knowing how stupid the SFA is, I think Hibs will end up getting a fucking fine for bringing the game into disrepute or something. Honestly, it'll be sad. Like, they're sad, stupid. It's just, you see shit like that all the time, but even if a club really wants to bite back on something, I think the SFA will be that stupid they'll go out and do that. You know what I mean?
Well worth the fine.
To be honest, if we're going to be talking about bringing the game into disrepute, your mate at the Rangers game yesterday, he's bringing the game into disrepute with that. Like, 15-game ban for him and all.
I can accept that right now.
Dylan Tilbrook, who's joined us, has said, can we all give credit to the Hibs admin for winding up Aberdeen fans? He's been on fire of late, to be fair to him. He's doing a good job up the Hibs admin. And speaking of Duke, N'Golo Grante, what a guy, by the way. He said, thought Lewis Miller was top class. And then he also said, Jago has a good game. It's what a difference it makes when you keep it simple. But Lewis Miller, hard not to talk about the boy yesterday. Potential man of the match performance from him. And Duke, it's fair to say, is one of the best players in the league, especially outside the Old Firm. And the fact he got pocketed by Lewis Miller, are we getting a bit more confidence that he can be our starting right back week in, week out? Ryan, come to you first on that one.
Yeah, I think we've all spoken a number of times about the qualities that he possesses, and we're starting to see that on a more regular basis now. It's just about him trying to be more consistent in his performances. But I thought he was very, very good yesterday. Very good. I suppose with his age, that's where the inconsistency comes in. But he's starting now to kind of find his level. And I was impressed with him yesterday. Absolutely. I thought he was good against Aston Villa too.
And Greg, strong, physical, seems to tick your boxes.
Yeah, he's an athlete. That's pretty much it. Physical, aggressive. It's probably what you want and a full back, and he can affect the game going forward as well. So it's come a long way since Falkirk away, put it that way.
And you and
how many games is Miller actually? Is it Jenkie's only getting into double figures now? Will he be into double?
I think he's under 20. He's in double figures, but under 20, I think.
So like
all comps.
I would say aye.
I mean, in the league, I'd be surprised if it was double.
Nah, he's on 12 league games according to Wikipedia. Just did a quick swatch there now.
So like,
it's a man, Liam.
That shows like there's still so much. You know, like if you're starting to see positive signs that early in terms of actual minutes at this level, then you'd like to think he can continue to develop. There was a couple of occasions that Duke got the better of him yesterday, but you would expect that against a player of Duke's quality.
He's given away a lot to Duke as well, with Duke's low centre of gravity and Lewis Miller being 6'2" and fairly upright. It does give Duke, when the ball's on the deck, a bit of an advantage, particularly in wide areas where he's got area to manoeuvre. I'm not making excuses for him as a fellow tall person, but playing against a shorter man, particularly with low centre of gravity and that sort of body mass that Duke's got, can be really difficult for defenders. But I thought he did a very good job. And to be honest, there'll probably not be many better players in that area of the pitch he'll come up against in our league this season. Struggling to think of any, to be frank. I mean, Maida's busy, but I wouldn't really worry too much about Lewis Miller up against Dyes and Maida, to be honest. And I wouldn't worry about anyone Rangers have got now, because they're an absolute basket case. So
yeah, probably right. You're probably right.
Probably as tough an examination as he's going to get. Well, it depends what Arts fans think about Kagawa that week. You'll go for being the second coming of Shinji Kagawa to the fucking I don't know what the other end of that scale is. Shinji Kagawa, Shinji Ono. Anyway, move on.
I reckon if there was a football Olympics and one of the sports you could compete in was long throw with a football, I reckon that Miller would be our best shot to get an Olympic medal.
Do you not think that we still don't utilise that enough, though?
If he did get the ball near the box, so he does launch it, to be fair to him.
Aye, but like Kenny's allowed to do it where he's like further down or not. Like, he just fucking launch it up the line.
There was one that he was
left-hand side the pitch and all.
Not even at the edge of the box, like, and he literally almost cleared the entire box. He threw it that far. Like, I genuinely think we could do it for the halfway line and just start launching balls into the box from everywhere.
Celtic in the split in the last season, he was a fair bit out of the box and he launched it in. So
I think what Liam said there, though, that's for me the big thing. You know, like if we can, you know, like just speed it up a little bit by quickly throwing the ball over to sort of that Hanlon Stevenson area of the pitch, you're not giving teams time to set as well. Like, God, we're historically so slow with throw-ins that could just negate that, you know, and actually become a real positive.
The only thing I would say with that is I agree, but I'm not sure we're the biggest teams. If I look at us in the league, like just in terms of stature wise, like it's all very well being able to get the ball into the box, but are we really able to take advantage of it when it lands in the box? I don't think we've got really anyone other than maybe Will Fish, who's not shown it this season, but last season showed a bit of aerial prowess.
I think Jan's proved to be pretty useful in there. No, I think he's got a couple of headers, and I think he actually probably for a winger wins his fair share of aerial stuff. And if Doidge is playing, which he probably deserves to be on the start of this season.
Just whilst we're on throw-ins as well, like I thought we were really good at getting the ball back in the pitch. I think it's something that we struggle with quite often, especially under Lee Johnson. But I thought that we weren't like getting frustrated at players not throwing the ball in. Just small things that I like to look out for because I'm specky. But Gary Kerr said Neil Lennon can confirm he flies an aeroplane. Kevin Maddox said, "Hi lads, Kev from Newcastle, hope you're all well. Jose Mourinho's got the job, being given 100 million, free transfer windows with a remit of beating Ross County at home sometime in the future. Smiley face, GGTTH." I reckon Kevin's got a big smile on his face, so do I. Good on you, Kevin.
When they get done.
What a guy. And then who should go? Luke Cunningham said, "Is Big Doidge benefiting from not having the pressure of being first choice striker, or is it because of the support he is getting from other forward players?" So essentially, Christian Doidge has been a bit of a revelation. I don't think any of us expected him to even be here at this point, but he's probably been our best player, if not one of them. Ewan, is there anything you can point as to why Doidge has had such a resurgence?
He got a lot of minutes at Kelly. He's probably finally shaken off. Was it an ACL injury he had? You know, he was out
Achilles.
An Achilles injury. He suffered from long COVID as well. I think Christian Doidge is benefiting from being fully fit more than anything else. You know, that's for me. Like, I might be wrong, and maybe it's because we've never seen him for a year. And to be honest, we've probably not seen him that frequently. Probably since before COVID. He looks a bit quicker to me. I don't know if I've imagined that, but I've been really impressed. I don't. The supporting cast plays its part, but he individually has more than played his part. You know, a couple of assists, a couple of goals.
And Ryan, the first goal yesterday, obviously he scored the second, but the work for the first goal, not giving up on it, that's the type of thing you want to see from your striker. Like as Ewan said, maybe he's a bit quicker than before, but you don't even need the pace if you got that work rate.
Yeah, I think the Aberdeen backline had kind of switched off and he stayed alive to it, which was obviously to a great benefit for us, which, you know, I think that's what he gives you. He gives you like tireless work rate and he gives you a bit of chaos as well. I think he's been very effective in his own way in the games that he's played. To kind of back up you, and I think he has looked very sharp and has probably had the benefit of a full kind of pre-season to get himself into that condition. I've been very impressed with him because last season, just before he went out on loan, I didn't think he really offered us much. So I'm happily surprised about that one.
Yeah, no, definitely. And Greg, obviously, in terms of set pieces, we've been a lot better at defending corners this year with him being back. But that aside, I think Ewan said we've only scored one goal, without Doidge being on the pitch. Just how good an impact has he been? In your opinion, should he be starting from now on?
Yeah, that way in the league.
It's been good, yeah. I think he probably deserves to start. Like him and Lafondra up front deserve to start. They've made the most impact, to be honest.
In the league, that is, by the way, Harry.
Pardon?
In the league.
Oh, just in the league, yeah. And then move it. Who should we go to next? Rebel Hybe has looked a bit broader than just Hib, but he said, do the slow starts from Hearts and Aberdeen make you think any differently about Hib's first 3 games and the sacking of Lee Johnson? Big picture, Lee Johnson was not the man for the job, but is there merit in the argument that none of the 3 teams were ready for Sunday, Thursday? Liam, come to you on that one. Do you think that Sunday, Thursday is the main reason that Hearts, Aberdeen and Hibs are starting slow, or do you think that it's... What do you think it's down to?
I would take issue with if that was the excuse the clubs put forward for, because you play a 38 league game season to get into Europe, and you know that the outcome of getting into Europe is you play Thursday, Sunday. We brought the players back earlier from pre-season. We've talked about in this podcast that wanting to play games rather than train. So to be honest, I wouldn't accept that if that was an excuse that was put forward. I think maybe some of the teams, the 3 teams mentioned, have been a little bit undercooked. Coming into some of the games, but I'm not buying the tiredness argument at all. If I'm being fair, we've got bigger squads than the likes of Motherwell, St Mirren. Who else have beat us this season? Livy. We should be turning them over. I don't accept that at all as an argument. Is it the reason though? I mean, it's hard to put your finger on. I suppose you could look at it and say if you use this start of the season as a sample size, you could maybe pin some of it on that, but I would find it very, very hard to agree with that, to be honest.
See, just to come in on the second part of that, Harry, I think you said something about with them having the slow start, does it make the Johnson decision incorrect or correct? I think if anything, their starts back up the decision to move off from Johnson because you've acted quickly when the opportunity. Now we shouldn't dismiss St Mirren, Motherwell. You know they've had really good starts to the season, but you would expect that they will, like Aberdeen, Hearts, Hibs, will sort of rise, and that will be the competition for the European spaces again. And Hibs have acted quickly before things got out of hand ultimately. And if you were to base it off vibes, Hibs are probably in the best place out of the 3 now. You know what I mean? Like going into the international break, which fan base are the happiest? I would suggest it's Hibs.
Yeah, no.
The only thing I'd say about that is, like, I mean, I think that just speaks to just how reactionary football fans are. Because, you know, a week ago people were talking about relegation, and now we've won 1 game, and all of a sudden everyone's like, "Fuck, here we go! I'm gonna win the league."
Who was talking about relegation?
Hey, there was plenty.
Ewan Wilson was talking about relegation.
I said if things didn't change, we could get relegated. Things changed. We got rid of the manager. That was what I said was if Lee Johnson stayed in place, we could go down.
Just really wasn't 35 games to rectify the poor start.
Can I just say, actually, guys, let's ease off on you. And he's predicted that if we average 0 points a game, we would get relegated. I think that's really good insight from you in there. Just some more questions. Gary Kerr commented Doidge. Yes. And then he said work ethic from Doidge on his return. I'm assuming that he means that was good. Lewis Melrose said Doidge needs someone with him to get the best out of him. Every time he's in form for us has always been with someone who can finish the chances he makes or follows their shots and finishes himself. And then Gary Kerr also said, agrees with Liam, the 3 teams, including the upside down teddy bears, it's a cop-out.
Upside
yeah, right.
Teddy bears.
Teddy bears, that's a corker. And just before we move on, is there any other individuals yesterday we've not quite highlighted? One guy who got a lot of flack that made probably one of the biggest moments of the game, David Marshall. That save, just sheer instinct. Sometimes keepers just going to throw their hands out there in the right position, and he made a really good save. We've all been in his back, and I don't think any of us wanted him to start the game, and he thankfully proved us all wrong there. So good on you, Davy Marshall.
But,
Also think that he came out and commanded his box a little bit better than he has done in recent weeks, which took the pressure right off when it came to cross balls. Seen him collect a corner and punch a corner as well, which makes a massive difference when you're under that little bit of pressure. So absolutely fair play to him.
A couple others, Lewis Stevenson and Paul Hanlon were both great. You know, like maybe I'm just saying that because of the amount of stick they get, to be honest. But they were both, especially Stevenson. Stevenson was excellent yesterday. But all as good as Lewis Miller was, I think Stevenson was better on the left-hand side. Truthfully, I thought Stevenson was brilliant yesterday.
What, you mean two experienced players were good? Surely not.
No bad for a
Surely not.
No bad for a couple of finished old fogies, Gregor.
Can't they wait till next week and they're wanted at the club?
Absolutely done. What, during the international break? That's not harsh, Ryan.
You know what Hibs fans like.
Hibs only played this weekend. Stevenson and Hanlon are finished.
Stevenson and Hanlon's fault. Hibs only get 8 points this weekend.
Goodness. I'll do one Aberdeen comment. Jake Gapper said, should Aberdeen check Duke into an old folks home for all the times he's fallen over for nothing? I hope they have at least removed all the rugs from their training centre. That's good content, Jake. We like that. And then Jack Kell said, this is a non-football related question. He said, headphones or earphones like AirPods, more of a headphone guy myself for audio quality, but they can get annoying. So you guys I like my AirPods. I'll stick my AirPods on and I'm happy with that. But are we
headphones? Android AirPods.
I've got Beats.
Oh,
that'll be
good.
blurred out. But no, it's not Beats. There you go.
AirPods are they're just so convenient, mate. That's the convenience.
Yes. No wires, mate.
I record with headphones, but generally I'll listen on AirPods.
I think you'll find those are earphones, Ryan.
Headphones are
aye, sorry, mate. I'm still not 100%, boys.
No worries, mate. No worries.
Jesus Christ.
I think if I'm going on
some detox you're needing, like.
Mate, I think it was the 6 hour drive we used in the car that was the worst part, to be honest with you.
I'd be going to see a fucking shrink after that.
Like hungover, 6 hours in the car, but in fact we hit traffic, so it was probably 7. Just use batter in my lug. To be fair, Liam, you weren't too bad. It was the 3 in the back. They were like the 3 musketeers, man.
Arseholes in the back.
I went over with a lie down in a very, very dark room and no noise. Man.
Have you guys ever seen the video with the Everton fan when he starts clapping, then he realises his fingers are broken and he's like, that was 100% G, by the way, because he was going for it with a clap and then he clapped and he stopped instantly.
My hands were absolutely puggled on the Friday, man.
Oh no.
Absolutely puggled.
But 2 people met down in Birmingham. First, Hibs Alison, what a woman. She said, I'm going to tune into this at 7 p.m. and if there's not a live rendition of the Airplane song, I'm going to be very disappointed. I've seen she's already clipped it and put it on Twitter, so I'm glad I've made someone happy today. Fat as Prick has said, what a guy he is, by the way, absolute legend, said, with Hibs being a pioneering club with countless first to-dos, would it be surprising if they were the first club to employ someone because they can fly an aeroplane, drive the Huns insane and hate them like nobody else? Also, can tonight's show be dedicated to Roy Orbison? Which brings us nicely onto our next topic of Hibs managers. From what we've seen in reports, it seems to be down to 2 candidates. We think it's probably down
Roy
to
Orbison one of them, like?
No, but his song.
As long as there's no singing Penny Arcade, it'll be all right.
But guys, let's talk Neil Lennon. Being 100% frank, I was not on board with it. But after that chant, I genuinely would not mind him being Hibernian Football Club manager. It is that catchy. And also, the concept of Neil Lennon as manager and Scott Brown as assistant, I actually think would be quite a good tandem. Ewan is livid at the concept, but again, for context, he wasn't in Birmingham.
No, I'm not livid. No, mate, I was like, I think all of us have been really, probably for the duration of this pod, been really anti-Neil Lennon, right? In terms of coming back as a manager. And I don't want to speak on behalf of LUs, but see, since the moment Johnson's got sacked, I felt like day on day I went, I probably, and then like to the point where I was like, anyone else and I'll not be happy. But I've come back off that. But like, I don't know what it is, but I mean, obviously you all have your reasons as well.
Greg, I reckon the old bedsheet that you used to have for Jack Ross out, I reckon you've washed and you've got Lennon in.
Outside my house. Yeah, I guess the only thing with Lennon is you're always two bad results away for a nuclear meltdown, and going AWOL and whatever. So I don't know. He says he's matured as a manager and he's mellowed out after his stint in Cyprus. But I probably would have him back, to be fair. Yeah.
And I'm being called out in the YouTube sections. Jeez. RS1875 said, if we get Lennon, can we sing the new Lennon chant in the stands, Harry, or just old songs only? Jeez, okay. You want some shade? I tweeted the other day.
He's absolutely done you.
Fair play.
Absolutely lined you up and give you a scalp on the bottom, and you deserve it.
I don't know what your first name is, RS, but well done. You've had me there. We would indeed sing the Lennon song relentlessly in the stands. Kenny Whitson said, Lennon just said on PLZ he's not had any contact with Hibs about manager, which is hilarious because also on PLZ is Tam McManus, who tweeted today saying that Neil Lennon is a candidate for the job. So good job, Tam McManus, for keeping the Hibs fans fresh on the news content.
You see, if Tam McManus told me the sky was blue, I'd have to go outside and check for myself.
Yeah, but Greg,
I don't trust what he says. I
You'll
really
get
don't.
very well paid for appearing on PLZ.
Well, he's listened to us and he doesn't like us. So there you go. Good evening, Tam. Hope you have a good night.
But Ryan, we all love to be ITK. We all love to sometimes pretend we're ITK. It's one of the fun things we do. But this tweet we got today, I thought was no offense, Logan, we love you, but I thought this was hilarious. Logan Rutherford said, less so a question, but if it's not announced today, it will be soon. Montgomery saw him meeting with Cadden and JDH at Waverley this morning. Totally random, but there you go. I don't want to say I don't believe you, but surely if Nick Montgomery, candidate for Hibs, was coming to Edinburgh, he wouldn't be arriving at Waverley, and I'm not sure why Jake Doyle-Hayes and Chris Cadden would be the people to meet him there and greet him to Edinburgh in the club. Ryan, do you believe Logan today, Logan Rutherford?
I do, because I think there's been some sort of coup from the players and they've decided we're taking over here. Okay. And they've decided who they want to come in as manager. They've contacted the club. They've started a GoFundMe for the compensation, and so they've met Nick Montgomery.
Do you know, like, the most unrealistic bit of all that is that I didn't get the impression Doyle, Hayes, and Cadden would be together outside the training. We spoke to them both. We spoke to them both, like, one on pod, one off pod, and they're both genuinely nice guys. But I don't know why I didn't picture that as a. Like, I didn't see them going for coffee, the two of them. I don't know why.
I have the opposite of you. I actually thought that was the most convincing part. I could see the two of them being pals. They're both quite like nice, amiable, like quite humble young men. I could see the two of them being pals. Albeit I get that thing wrong all the time because I always think, he must muck about with him, and then they didn't like each other at all. So
that's our whole group.
Character.
We all muck about together. We can't stand one another, or so you would think the way we talk to each other.
Slag your pals. Who can you slag, Ryan?
Hey,
you're no pal of mine. Let that be heard on YouTube.
Go on. We don't say that, Ryan. Come on, take it back.
All right. I take it back. You're all right. You're all right.
Lewis Melrose said Lennon would steady the ship, but wouldn't be a long-term solution. Liam, we didn't come to you and your thoughts on Lennon. Would you be happy to see him back in the door, airplane song aside?
I always think with that manager and assistant manager thing, you need a good cop, bad cop, and who's good cop and who's bad cop with Lennon and Brown.
I reckon
both bad cop, both really shit cop. Like
I reckon Brown would be good.
Nah, I can't see Scott Brown being put the arm around you type. I really can't. Nah, I know. I'm sure he's mellowed since his playing days, but I can't see it. I'm probably not. I wouldn't be enamoured with Neil Lennon, to be honest. Like, the song was good, the patter was good, but he wouldn't be in my top 5. But would I be all right with it? Of course I would, because you came for a while, it would be absolute rock and roll. It would be rock and roll for a while, and it would be good. But when it goes south, it goes really fucking south.
They're not again. Like, I feel like Lennon must be one of our longest serving managers though in the last out of the last few, because he was here for like 2.5 years, which like again I agree with him. It wouldn't be a long-term solution, but 2.5 years to 4 years would probably put you at any given time as like one of the longest serving managers in the league. You know what I mean? Like I know like we all talk about Lennon's varying stuff at Hibs, but in terms of just length of tenure, he must be up there probably in the last 10 managers or so.
I'd also have to say that the football under Lennon was very, very good.
For a period.
Yeah, I mean, I think when we first came up that season, we were very good. In the Championship, we had to do what we had to do to get out. Jesus, we're in the Championship and went toe-to-toe with the Danish champions, man. Like, come on. You know what I mean?
It was bad in his final season. It started well, and then it sort of end of September came.
I'm blaming Canberry for that, but that wasn't even Lennon's fault. That was Canberry's fault.
my thing about
Canberry make him
though,
play 7 defenders away to Kelly, because that was fucking.
I heard it was him.
My main thing on Lennon is like I think when he came back to Hibs, his plan the entire time was to go back to Celtic, but I think that's just not going to happen ever again. Like I just don't see any world in which Celtic would want Lennon back as manager. So for me, the main reason I like it is because the heart attack Hibs, the end of the season where we were like scoring 5 goals a game and it was just relentless end-to-end football. I think Lennon with this current squad could probably bring that back. And that was probably my most enjoyable time period. That January to summer was probably my favourite time following Hibs. And then I do think in terms of longevity, I don't think any teams down south are going to be sniffing at him unless he wins something like a cup with us. So for me, my dad and my sister are huge on Lennon and I actually want him back without any form of satire or airplane song. So they've started convincing me a bit I wouldn't hate it. But my first choice, and it's also the first choice of Handsome Jack in the YouTube. No, it was a question from Handsome Jack, never mind. But he asked Nick Montgomery for manager. Who feels most confident to talk about Nick Montgomery? Right.
All right.
Probably Ryan. Ryan had a bit of detail on him last week.
I'll give it a blast.
Not really.
So I'll just I'll fire through some information that I got on him. Most people could probably find this in a very simple Google search, but they're listening to us instead.
You learned how to do that, have you?
What's that? Fucking Google it. How do you know do it the other day? Right, so he played over 350 games for Sheffield United. He was actually capped at under 21 level for Scotland. He holds citizenship in both Australia and in the UK. He holds a UEFA Pro licence. He's only managed 59 competitive games. He's got a win ratio of 49.15. And last season, it wasn't actually the league that they won. They won the, what do you call it, Liam? What's the competition there?
Champions Cup.
Champions Cup, which is a weird kind of cup format after it takes place after the league is finished. So Central Coast Mariners actually finished second. What's in the
top section of the league though?
Yeah, so that's why it's done after the league's finished. So all the placings are in order before that happens. I think his qualities lay mostly in man management and bringing through youth players. At the club in the last 2 to 3 seasons when he's been there, they've brought through quite a lot of academy products and sold them on for a profit. Throughout his time there, they've used 55 players, so that would suggest that there's transition permanently at the club. And I think we've seen that in the little clips that do the rounds on YouTube. He's got quite a lot out of individual players that maybe were hard to kind of get a tune out of at previous clubs, especially the likes of Jason Cummins. So it's one that I'd be very interested about kind of bringing in and seeing what he could do in terms of integrating younger players, because I mean we've got quite a good youth set up, and Hibs fans always want to see young guys in the team. In modern day football, a lot of what can be done in man management kind of suggests to me that you can get a lot out of players just by kind of putting an arm around them or giving them a rocket whenever they need it. It's about kind of knowing when to do that.
So,
I didn't say it was Jamie McLaren's team he beat in the final.
Yeah, they pumped them 6-1.
Yeah.
Get him in then.
6-1.
Can I see something that I mentioned there? I mentioned Jason Cummins. I don't know if you've watched it. there was that like 30-minute, 45-minute documentary
Yeah,
thing.
I've watched it.
And Montgomery, I think, was on it, and he was talking about like harnessing the character and stuff like that, and what would maybe put off other managers would like he enjoys.
Yeah.
And we've had questions on here in the last couple of years about, oh, who's the best? Is this at various points? Is this the most likable Hibs team? Blah blah blah. But like, see for instance, Jack Ross. I don't think Jack Ross as a manager would maybe have been the type to deal with Jason Cummins. But if we can get a manager in that can deal with like the multiple personalities in the squad, you're looking specifically at Boyle, then you probably can harness them to be even better than what they are currently, if you know what I mean. Like that was one thing that's the only real thing I've ever really remembered about Nick Montgomery was I'm talking in that little bit of Jason Cummins documentary or whatever it was.
One of the biggest things
I would full of lunatics, aye.
Oh, I know, mate. Like, I know it's stupid, but like all our best sort of goal scorers probably in our lifetimes have.
Do you know what? It's like when Harry McCurdy came. Like he's an absolute arsehole, but scores goals. That's the sort of character that they may be able to get the most out of. I must say, I was pretty impressed with him in the sort of short documentary or whatever. And I think he talks well and he's always sort of commanding his team, which obviously Lee Johnson tried to do, but in a very silly and unprofessional way at times. But yeah, look, I think if you first and foremost if you get a man manager and who can harness the fairly varying, I would say, personalities, then you've already got a winner because you've got buy-in for the players straight away.
One of the most noticeable things about him is seeing all these little clips in YouTube, the 30-40 minute things. He really does not seem to be egotistical. He doesn't seem to be that kind of guy that would let something like that get in the way, which is probably how you can then harness.
I've got something to say.
Ryan, you keep talking. You keep talking.
Is it that? Who's got his hand up? Liam. Right. No, on you go, Liam.
The whole point of raised hand is to wait till you finish speaking and the person jumps in.
No, but the whole screen changed here and I didn't know what was going on.
Technophobes, man. No, I was just going to try and piggyback on something someone else said just about Lee Johnson. I think just having listened to a wee bit of him speak, he comes across as an instantly more, I think, relatable character for our fans, if I'm being honest. Comes from very much kind of working class background in North of England. I'm not saying that Lee Johnson didn't come from working class background, but I just think as a person, I think the people from the north of England tend to translate better with a Scottish audience than people from the south of England do. It's just my personal viewpoint. And I think socioeconomic factors, like the fact that he, was ultimately a working class lad whose mum sent off a bunch of handwritten letters to football clubs to get him into football clubs, and eventually was picked up by a football club in Yorkshire, kind of demonstrates that sort of had to work his way up from the bottom and he's had to scrap for everything he's got. And there is an element of Lee Johnson, whether or not you like it, there is an element of his career that is ultimately down to the success that his father had. And that instantly, I think, if I'm being honest, means you maybe have not had to work as hard as the man next to you. And I don't think that's the case with Nick Montgomery. He's done things a difficult way. Ryan cites the 400 games played for Sheffield United, for example. He went out to Australia at the age of 30 to continue his playing career. I just think there is something about him which will resonate with supporters. Whether or not that makes him a good manager, I've fucking no idea. But I think it will buy him more time with supporters.
He also, in the same interview, he said some of his pals went off and got involved in crime and bank robberies, etc. So he's sort of been fully focused on football from a very young age and started his career at Leeds or whatever and worked up for this. So you've got to absolutely respect the work ethic that he's got and the desire to succeed and be successful in the game. So sort of the more I hear about him, the more I listen, the more I'm bought in, because it's someone that you can probably relate to more than Lee Johnson, who comes across some sort of cheeky chappy type figure, and yeah. I think he's much more likeable for a kick-off, and he's not even Hibs manager yet.
Harry, I'd be curious to get your thoughts. I know as host you don't always get the chance. Would you maybe say the fan base was 50-50? You might have half the fan base saying, but he's not got any experience in Scotland. Would that be a worry? Or
so the thing is, for me, I think there's nothing actually confirming. There's reports on Twitter saying that he's likely got the job coming from Australian outlets, and then to strengthen that, Tam McManus says that he's not confirmed to get the job, which makes me think that it's even stronger that he's likely to get it. But for me, from the club's perspective, I think after 3 managers that didn't go so well, I think Liam's absolutely right that they want someone that the fans can connect with. I think in terms of brand of football, I think that everything that we've heard and read about him so far, it's supposed to be fast-flowing, attacking. There's a focus on coaching at a club like Hibs. You need to have someone that can develop players. We're not a selling club, but in theory, if we were, it wouldn't be a terrible thing. If you look at the money we got for the likes of Josh Doidge, with some of the youngsters we've got coming through, if we've got someone that can come in and actually develop those players and make them worth a lot of money, I think it would be a really good thing. So for me, from everything I've read so far, I think he's a perfect mould. As I've said before, I think that recruitment-wise, I think we've done really well this window. I think we've got a good enough squad. We just need a manager who's brave enough to actually get them playing football the right way. So for me, from what I've heard, Nick Montgomery, I said a couple of weeks ago, well, not a couple of weeks ago because it wasn't that long, but from the off, as soon as I heard the candidate and done some reading, I did think he seemed like quite a good candidate for me. And Dylan Tilbrook did make a very good comment in the YouTube section just a sec, Greg. He said, I just hope Nick Montgomery doesn't wear Marks and Spencer's finest when he's in the dugout.
He looks like he does, to be honest.
Nothing wrong with buying your clothes in M&S. I just went and dropped about 180 quid in there last 2 weeks ago. Forgot that.
Flex.
What were you going to say, G?
What was I going to say now? Fuck's sake. Move on. Sorry, transferable skills. He's got transferable skills, and it doesn't matter that he's not managing Scotland, to be honest, because man management is the same throughout the world, regardless of what country you're in. And tactical know-how is also transferable, and it's not specific to one different country. Plus, I'm sure he'll keep David Gray on. Yeah. So I think we'll be okay.
If we do go down this line with Montgomery, just would we be surprised? Like, did we expect the club to go a little bit more tried and tested, or is this the sort of angle we all thought we would continue to sort of see?
I think the club would worry about appointing a Derek McInnes type character just because of how divisive that could potentially be. I'm not saying it should be divisive, but I think it would be divisive in our fan base. I think a lot of people would be kind of looking for reasons to want him out pretty early on, whereas I think someone like Nick Montgomery, I also think, we mentioned him last week, but someone like Darren Moore, potentially those names would get a bit more good grace from the supporters. I think Nick Montgomery's going to need time. He's not going to come in and just know the league straight away and know how to set up, but he'll need to figure out who the people are within the club that he trusts to kind of feed him that information, and hopefully David Gray is one of them, but if it is him, clearly. But I think it's going to be a massive learning curve for him, as it is for any manager who moves out of one league to the next. But it's going to be a massive learning curve for anyone coming out with Scotland, because our league's unique.
I don't mind managers making mistakes, but you need to learn from them, and that's what the previous manager failed to do. We didn't learn from his mistakes; he kept making them, highlighted them, and then made them again. So listen, managers are always going to make mistakes, and they're never going to be perfect all the time. We need to learn from the mistakes. And that buys you grace as well. If you accept that you were wrong or whatever, and then amend it, these are the sort of things that supporters actually really appreciate.
And we've got a few more comments. Not convincing Stephen Nicholson, who said, Hibs praying this is going to work out like Ange. We need McInnes or Lennon. Very concerned if we go down this risky, unknown route. Being honest, if we do get him in, I will also be praying that he turns out like Ange. I wouldn't blame the club if they think that he's got those types of, if that's a skill set that they want to bring in and he thinks he's got it, then I wouldn't mind that at all. Liam, you're shaking your head.
Nah, I just think it's a bit of a, no offence, Stephen, but of a lazy comparison. They both managed in Australia. Nick Montgomery's from England. He's played for Scotland under 21s, and the nothing about his interview strikes me of Ange Postecoglou. Like, literally nothing. I couldn't draw any similarities other than the fact they both worked in Australia.
Mind when people used to compare Rocky Bashiri and Effie Ambrose? Yeah, people just see, daft.
Lazy comparisons, to be honest, that are not required.
And then Lewis Melrose said Montgomery has some stellar eyebrows. I'll be looking out for that. Gary Kerr has flamed us and said, absolute nonsense, free jokes like recruitment, we going round the roundabouts to back of beyond, maybe air miles topping. Honestly, look what you playing week in, week out, go get Montgomery, behave. I think what he's saying is recruitment's not been great. Look at the players that are playing week in, week out, and getting Montgomery would be the wrong decision. Thank you, Gary, for that. Rabsy Nesbitt said, said, love the show, guys, watch regularly now. Kenny Whitson, I'm surprised it's not a coach from the good old US of A. And Handsome Jack, the last question on manager for now, guys. I asked Ryan earlier, but I'll open it to Greg, Liam, and Ewan. Should we give Sir David Gray a chance?
No.
I mean, he deserves a chance, but I don't. It's difficult though. When is he ready? Until he gets. It's a tough one. It really is a tough one.
I think he should be considered, along with a bunch of other candidates that were put forward. He should definitely be under consideration. I think he served his apprenticeship for a while, but ultimately, I think people at the club will have a closer idea of David Gray's contribution to the club over the last 2-3 years in a coaching capacity, and really should be able to make that call themselves. I'd like to think Brian McDermott's been assessing it since the minute he came in the building as well, and has got a clear idea of whether or not David. The only thing I would say about David Gray is, and it might be difficult for him with the setup of Adam Owen and Jamie McAllister coming in with Lee Johnson, but I would like to have seen greater influence and stamp of his across the team over the last 15 months than we've seen, in order for him to get the job. So, had we been successful and he'd been a big part of that, I would be championing him to get the job. But the fact is, he's been first team coach under 3 managers where we've not really been successful. So
it's a lot easier to promote from within when the manager leaves to go elsewhere, as opposed to I think you've already seen that with Hearts, that criticism's already there, I think, there as well. They've promoted from within from a situation that they weren't very happy with. Obviously, they've got their whole thing going on over there, but yeah, I think Liam makes a really good point
there. I probably would have liked to have seen him even manage the development team more. Probably be in the role that Darren McGregor's in at the moment, before being considered for the first team manager's job. I just think it's a huge step going for what he's been doing to the manager. I think we maybe need a bit more experience in there, but.
Just while we're on the subject of Gray, say he did go away now, he didn't get the job here and he went and he managed, he say he got the next opportunity in the championship and he done fine, didn't he pull up massive trees? Does that end his chance of getting the Hibs job, or does it aid his chance because he served his time at the club but also got the experience in the management? You know what I mean?
If you take Ian Murray, for example, when he was managing Dumbarton and they were punching well above their weight in the championship, I was absolutely convinced he would one day be Hibs manager, but he maybe took a bad job and taken the St Mirren job, and now he's miles off it. He probably wouldn't be in the top 20, 30 candidates for the job. So I think timing's really important in the job. The kind of jobs you take are really important. I think the thing I'd say about David Gray is he's held in higher esteem than Ian Murray is by Hibs supporters, so that might carry a little bit of weight, but I don't know. There's so many hypotheticals there, but I do think he probably will be Hibs manager.
Right now, who's the more attractive?
Permanently.
Marvin Bartley or David Gray? If you use that example, someone that's been an assistant at Livy, went and managed for a 6-7 month spell now at Queen's, or David Gray. Just who would be the more attractive option there? I don't know. It's a difficult one for Gray. That's what I mean. There's now 3 opportunities he's had to get the role. Does he wait for another 2-3 years? I don't know. It's difficult.
Well, he's in a position where he probably can't really go anywhere at the moment.
Aye. But yeah, no, guys, let us know in the comments. Let us know on Twitter what you guys think of David Gray and his chances of one day being Hibs manager. I think that's an interesting question you imposed there. But guys, I know it sounds daft after 4 league games to look back at the season so far. However, Hibs have played 11 competitive games, which is a bit mental when you think about it. And I don't think many of us thought that we'd have a manager sacked, sit 10th in the league with 3 points after 4 games, and actually be pretty happy with how the season started off. Ryan, am I absolutely mental for being pretty chilled going into this international break, considering we've got 3 points on the board? Or are you feeling the same?
Aye, because I didn't really expect us to go up there and take 3 points. But I think we're all a bit happier knowing that we've got rid of somebody that never really endeared himself to the fans, and we've now got an opportunity to appoint the right person and kind of kickstart. As somebody mentioned before, Aberdeen and Hearts are not doing that, so we've got the opportunity to kind of get a step on them as opposed to wait about until it got worse. I think more so than the results, I've had a couple of cracking trips this season, so it makes me feel a wee bit happier about the season.
Right, definitely. Greg, look, what if you had to rate it? If you had to rate it out of 10, what would you give the season so far?
Well, 4 or
Ooh,
a 5.
Okay.
The league's your bread and butter, really, isn't it? Everything else is a bonus. Should be judged, I would say, purely in the league.
And Liam, now with Rangers looking like they're not at their best, Celtic out the cup, St Mirren, who are playing, probably looking like the form team in the league. Is the League Cup now our biggest objective for the foreseeable?
Short term, probably, because it's the first trophy that gets handed out. So I think it needs to be a big objective. The St Mirren game's massive. I think you make the point there, Harry, that the draw's maybe opened up a wee bit as well. So I do think it's an opportunity for us to get back to Hampden, and it's an opportunity to win silverware, which, you know, it's probably the most important thing, really. But it certainly is as a football fan, but I think even as a Hibs fan, I think it's the most important thing.
And Ewan, we're 4 league games into a season. At the start of the season, before we'd even kicked the ball, what position did you have Hibs finishing in?
Third and winning the League Cup. So,
and do you stick with those choices?
Yes, I do. Yes, I fucking do. Why not, mate? Why not? Why not? Especially League Cup one. I think you and Liam are right there. Don't know about saying it's our priority. I think we've got at least 2 league games before then, but I absolutely get I get what you're like, and understand what you're saying. And League Cup should always be a priority for us, as far as I'm concerned. It's the most winnable competition, and then just make sure you finish in the top 4, and you basically get a fucking halfway there anyway. So you know what I mean? Like, but absolutely, 3rd place, League Cup. Nick Montgomery, Neil Lennon, David Gray, Marvin Bartley. I don't give a fuck. That's what's happening.
Hey. And then one final question's come in there from Lewis Young, and he said, out of all the away games you have been to, what has been the best atmosphere? I'll kick off. Bromby away in Europe after we won the Scottish Cup was absolutely immense. We were still in the kind of party atmosphere after winning the thing for the first time. And so I'd throw a Bromby away in for mine. Ewan, come to you next.
Horgan's double at Tinkers.
Solid. Unbelievable scenes. Greg?
Maybe Jerry McLaren at Ibrox away.
Penalty stuff.
Tensions.
Tensions.
I think it was especially because they just scored and then we went up there and then scored straight away. It was phenomenal, really.
Liam, what are you thinking?
I don't want to be really beige and say Derby will win, but but I'm going to fucking say it anyway. There was only about, I don't know how many tickets sold that night, maybe 800, 900 of us Thursday night. Riordan's penalty at the Roseburn end. After, I think it was Carapidis got sent off and Hearts fan ran on the pitch. I think just because the numbers were so small, it was so tin pot and it was quite meaningless, but it's just like a really good laugh, basically. Especially with that midfield of Rankin, Chisholm, O'Brien and Stevenson. Or was it Keenan? Can't mind. What a midfield, 4 left footers. Some laugh.
Hey, and Ryan, what about yourself?
Technically an away game, so the Boyle hat-trick in the Cup a few years ago. Oh, were we the home team, Liam?
No, it doesn't count. It's not an away game, it's a neutral venue.
Ah, right, fair enough. Well, do you know what? It takes a lot to top Villa Park the other night. Just sunshine and leaf in the stands, being there with good guys and great trip. Unfortunately, I was standing next to G for the whole game, but other than that, it was class.
That was me. I was going to say.
I'm really surprised neither of you mentioned it, because on the way up, you were waxing lyrical about it, like the way back home.
Oh no, I just took it as read. That was probably I think I've said already. I think it's probably the best away ending I've been in. Maribor doesn't come close to that. Maribor was good, but it doesn't come anywhere close to that.
Yeah,
What about you, G? Can we just touch on that for a couple of seconds because it was phenomenal? Like the away end of Villa.
Yeah, it was unbelievable, to be honest. And even when they scored, like then in the south, singing got louder. Every time we scored, it just got louder and louder. And, yeah, just one of the games where you've got absolutely nothing to lose. You don't really care. Just turn up and sing for 90 minutes. Like
class. Everybody was really jovial.
Usually when teams score against you, it's just like a sea of abuse getting flung at the players. But I supported them even more after the goal went in. It was really weird.
I also think we need
to
shout out the guy that was using his bare hands as a drum for the 90 minutes. He was absolutely battering the steel at the back of the stand. Like, fair play to him, man. 90 minutes.
Me and Sibo went and sat there at half time, mate, and I'm not kidding. There was 2 huge dents in it. Like, fair play to the boy.
Michael Monan was sitting, friend of the podcast, Michael Monan was sitting about 4 rows down from me, and literally every chance that was him, and on his own, it was like Harry levels of just being able to like generate a tune just with just your voice and nothing else. And he did play all the classics, so Harry was happy.
Yeah, I think we need to get more of the classics. I feel like the 2-0 down at Tiny Song's almost like Lockton's go-to. Like it was 8 years ago or something. Like it's a while ago now. So
if you want something,
the classics are always the best. Everyone loves a classic.
Nothing gets me up more than the Guy de Botte Riley. Like that is just, the minute I hear it, I'm like, oh.
That was class before Villa as well. Actually, I really enjoyed it before.
You almost take the line before that a little bit easier, just so you can fully project and dig right into the voice box and shell it right out.
I'm getting from what G said though, that the novel idea of just supporting the team regardless and getting right behind them comes across really, really well. Maybe that's something that all 5 of us in the wider Hibernian family, as people say, maybe we should take on board a little bit more often.
I get for the first goal we were cheering every pass. Maybe the second one and then they scored and then we cheered. Really, really odd. But listen, I think instead of piling abuse at people, let's just get behind them and probably find it.
I think it was
much more beneficial. But
like, I can't imagine you to be feeling nervous going up to a game or anything like that. So like, you're totally relaxed. You're steaming. Like, it's probably a mindset thing in that as well. You know what I mean? It's no Hearts at Hampden where all eyes are walking up to it, looking like, oh, this is going to ruin my week. You know what I mean?
You just folk before I was just like, we just want a goal.
So you just
we got a corner. We got a corner.
We managed to get a corner and a couple of throw-ins, but that was about it.
I think it gave us great exposure as well. You've seen on all the footy away days and things like that. We've kind of been on a lot of the videos and got a lot of praise. So really kind of exposed the club to the fan base that we've got. We're quite lucky.
But on that note, guys, wonderful away day last week, wonderful podcast today. Lewis Melrose, I think, summed it up quite nicely. He said the international break came at the perfect time for us. Good chance to reset and start again in the league under a new voice without Europe congesting the schedule. Completely agree with that. I believe we'll be back next Monday. Obviously, won't have a game to review, but I would be surprised if we don't have a new manager to talk about. Exciting times ahead for the Highbees, and we will catch you next time.
See ya.
Cheers.